the assumption. It's the go-to. That's not right. The child support from conception on, y'all, it's just cuckoo. That cannot be enforced. It cannot be implemented as it was described before. I think I mentioned this a couple months ago. My son is 25 years old. Guess what? I started getting child support from my ex-husband last year. 25. Because he decided to stop paying it.
What's she doing?
It matters what's in the bill. I've been told it doesn't matter the changes because it's an abortion bill. It matters. The language matters. It matters that definitions were completely changed or eliminated. It matters. It matters that we have extra fact findings. Now, I would like to mention that the senator from Edgefield and we did have some conversations, and we discussed 4 fact findings, and I told him from the very beginning, I said, well, that 4th one is, no, I'm not going to agree with that. That's got to go. And it did go. That was gone. I think that was not only really input with the conversation with the bill, but he listened and he probably talked to some other people who felt the same way. Adding the fact findings, the whereas clauses, that's problematic for our South Carolina Supreme Court. They warned us about this. And speaking of our South Carolina Supreme Court, I don't know if any of y'all caught the interview with Justice Kay Hearn on ETV, May 19th. That's Friday. Anybody catch that? She talked about all kinds of things. She talked about her career. She talked about women in general. She said women are close to being about 40% of the bar now. I think that's pretty good. Getting better. She said that Judge Gary Hill is excellent judge. And she also said the other 2 women were also equally deserving, perhaps more so because they had been on the bench longer. She did offer the lead opinion, and 2 of those male justices agreed with her. And she also said, so you know, and I'm almost quoting her, I wrote down word for word as much as I could. She regretted that her opinion had any impact on the judge election that we just got through. And she stands by her opinion. I'll end with this. And it's her quote. This is a quote. This is from retired Justice Kay Hearn of South Carolina Supreme Court. If you're going to pass a law, statute, dealing with abortion, you need to give women enough time to know they are pregnant. And 6 weeks is a joke. If you're going to pass a law, a statute, dealing with abortion, you need to give women enough time to know they're pregnant. And 6 weeks is a joke.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Senator from Anderson, Senator Cash, what purpose do you have?
If the senator would yield for a question.
Senator yields for a question.
Did Justice Hearn tell you what she thought was the appropriate time?
I did not interview her.
I'm sorry, did you say you were speaking with her?
No, she
I
said
was
she
quoting
saw
an interview she had with on ETV last Friday. I watched the interview and I wrote down her answers and listened to it pretty carefully.
Do you think the Supreme Court justices are the ones who are in a position to decide legislatively what the abortion laws or regulations should be, including how much time someone should be allowed to have an abortion?
I don't want judges legislating from the bench.
Thank you.
We make that decision. We've got to come to a decision. Please consider this, Sean. Just consider it. And it's not too late to change your mind. It wasn't too late for the House to change their mind on half the bill that they struck. You don't have to support this bill if you're not comfortable with how it's been changed.
Mr. President,
Senator from Florence, you've written by what purpose?
my request to speak to the amendment.
You recognize the amendment, and I'll come to Senator from Richard. Senator from Florence.
Thank you, Mr. President. Number 46, obviously the number I wear, so I am newest to the Senate, and I don't come to the well often, usually for introductions, but as I've sat here and I've listened to this, and I have so much respect for the senators who have spoken on the amendments, on the bills. I respect the passion, I respect the intensity, I respect the emotion behind it. I especially appreciate the balance between dueling needs, dueling positions. Obviously, the women in this room have a lot to say. I've got my wife. My wife is here. She's here most days with me. After 27 years, there's no one I hold in higher regard. I've got a daughter, my mom, my sister. I love and I appreciate, I respect and I revere women. Men, I've heard men be brought up. We're there during the pregnation process. We help get you pregnant. So we have an interest in this as well. We don't carry the babies, but I respect that men have a need here. That the men have a position. And as senators, we have positions. The one position I don't hear talked about often, though, is the baby. And I'm going to briefly, because I'm not going to be here long, I'm going to speak for the baby. Because as someone who was adopted after being born to a 14-year-old girl who was scared to death. And for those that will ask, well, how do you know how she felt? It's a longer story for another day, but when I was 18, just through pure God's providence and wild life, I met her. Unexpected, came out of nowhere, but I met her. And I talked with her, and I know how she felt because she shared with me. She was, in very quick summary, she was 14, had sex with her 15-year-old boyfriend, got pregnant, neither expected it. 1971, and at the time, 1971, abortion was not legal in the state of Ohio. But she got pregnant and was scared out of her mind because she really had three options. The first option was give birth to the baby, but she was told by her parents, you will not bring a baby home to this house. The second option was keep the baby and try to make it work with her boyfriend, but that was quickly taken off the table because he left and hadn't wanted no part of that. The third option was to try to find an abortion because abortion wasn't legal. In talking to her after the fact, 18 years later, she said it was the hardest decision she ever made, but she had one goal in mind, which was to give that baby in her stomach a chance, an opportunity. She had no clue how it was going to turn out. She said for 18 years she struggled with the questions of, did he have a good life? Did he have a bad life? Was he happy? Was he unhappy? Did he resent me for birthing him and giving him up? So many questions, and I really do believe it was God's grace that allowed her to meet me and ask me how I felt about it. But in talking to her, realizing that the one voice that she listened to, and she didn't discount her voice or how hard it would be to be 14, but in talking to her, she said the one person that she wanted to consider was that child that she birthed and was never able to hold even, because she said she wanted me to have a chance. Now, I don't expect my story to convince anyone. I understand, but for the most part, we're probably entrenched in what we're going to do and how we're going to vote, and I respect that. So I'm not trying to impugn anyone's position. I'm not trying to really convince anyone. The law that made abortion illegal in 1971 is probably why I'm here today, because she said, you know, they were friends who told me that I could find an abortion. It was dangerous, but I probably could find someone. But she said she knew it was illegal. And that helped her mindset to say, if it's illegal, and I want this child to have a chance, I'm going to go ahead and have this baby. Now, from there, life wasn't perfect, but I had the opportunity. When constituents have reached out and they've said, what about the mother? What about the mother? And I respond to hopefully every constituent I see, I care about the mother. I really do. But I also care about the snuffed out opportunity that could be that young man or that young woman. Doesn't mean life's going to be great, but don't they deserve the same opportunity that I received? And when I tell the constituents that I vote for pro-life legislation, it is in no way an indictment or demeaning or taking away or just trying to disparage the challenging position that women are in when they're pregnant and have an unwanted pregnancy. But I simply am here to advocate on behalf of that child because they have an opportunity if they're given birth. They have an opportunity to become something wonderful in life. And as I vote pro-life, I ask those here in the chamber to also consider the opportunity of that child because they are a component that we're not talking about enough, in my opinion. Mr. President.
Senator from Charleston, Senator Sid Moore, Christie Rise.
The kind of senator.
Senator Mills for question.
Thank you. I think I heard you say that in, was it Ohio? That there was no opportunity for abortion. So she did not have a choice.
There was no for a legal abortion.
A legal abortion. But she could have gotten an illegal abortion.
Yes.
And she chose not to do that.
Yes.
And so I would assume that she needed a little bit of time. She talked to her parents. She talked to her boyfriend. She figured out she could get an illegal abortion. She turned inward and she decided what to do. Shouldn't women have time to do those kind of things?
And that's why I would vote to table this because the 6 weeks, in my opinion, is enough time.
What if your mother did not know that she was pregnant? Did she tell you she knew that I was pregnant when I first conceived and therefore at 6 weeks, I had enough time?
I don't know how long it took her to know, and I appreciate and I respect you, Senator, and I don't know all the nuances at 14 when she knew, and I could never profess to know what she went through at 14. This really isn't to convince you or any other senator to change their position. I just hear so much from you and some other senators about the woman and the woman's position, and I respect it. I really do. And I think if you know me at all, I love my wife, my daughter, my mom, and my sister. I respect those. I simply also want to put a face with that child who is not just a sesame seed or a raisin or a grape. They have the opportunity, if given the opportunity to be born, to become a state senator, a wife, a husband, a father, a mother. There's so many opportunities. So it isn't about trying to convince you or trying to say when she knew it, when somebody does or doesn't know, as much as could we also consider the opportunity we're snuffing out. Because I wouldn't be here if she had said, you know what, at 14 I have so many reasons to abort you, but I think I'm going to give you the chance.
Well, I'm certainly thankful that she did not abort you, and I think that you've heard from all of us women that we do not want other women to have abortions. We don't like that. But I hope you have gathered that what we're trying to say is your mother deserved a choice, a meaningful choice, and we believe all women deserve a meaningful choice.
I appreciate that. I really do, Senator. Thank you.
Senator from Spartanburg, Senator Kimball, all purpose to rest.
Mr. President, see the senator from Florence with you for a couple of questions.
You will. A couple of questions. Senator Mills for question.
Senator, for starters, do you know that I'm really glad that your mother made the choice that she did, and I'm glad you're a colleague today.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it.
And as we talk about, I'm really proud of you for standing up and talking about protecting the child. Because we don't talk about the kid a whole lot. We don't talk about the children much as we should. We're talking about male versus female. This has now become the battle of the sexes versus the battle for the baby. And I think that's unfortunate. And, to the Senator Charleston's question to you a moment ago, I believe that if the cessation of a heartbeat signifies death, then the commencement of a heartbeat certainly is a corollary to signify life. And while I understand that we have to balance certain interests and people need to know when they're pregnant, I think that as the law is written here that we're talking about, the bill we're talking about today, you would be able to determine if a child is, if there's a viable life there with a heartbeat. That's what we're talking about. Do you know that I'm actually glad that your mother did not have more time to think about trying to end your life?
And I appreciate that, Senator. And in talking to her, and I don't mind sharing that after that first conversation, she had an emotional breakdown that was visceral because she said she always wondered for 18 years, did she make the right call? How did it turn out? Because she had so many reasons not to. And while I felt so bad that she dealt with that for 18 years, she said, you know, don't feel bad because you're here. You had the choice. And I know I made the right decision because you and your life and the fact that you are here means that when I chose you, I chose the life. She chose somebody's potential that she would have never had the opportunity to see.
And Senator, to that point, I've actually had family members and good friends who've had abortions, and I can just speak from personal experience of those conversations. Never once, never has any one of those women come to me and said, man, I'm glad I had an abortion. In fact, every one of them has regretted having had it. So we're talking about trying to protect not only life in the womb, but protecting really, women are victims of abortion too. Because not only is the life lost when we start making abortions more readily available, more expensive, but more women are harmed too. And to your mother's point, she obviously has no regret having let you be born, right? And so at the end of the day, I just want to say again, I appreciate you're talking about the human angle of this, that you're alive today, that you're serving in this body today because your mother chose life. And while I understand in reasonable exceptions, and I'm supporting reasonable exceptions, even though I've been hammered by some on our own side over it, I understand that a woman who was raped, or in the case of incest, I've always supported those exceptions. But abortion should not be used as birth control. We should do all we can to defend the life of the baby in the womb, and I appreciate your making it personal and human today, and God bless you and your mother.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator from Lexington, Senator Sheila.
The Senator from Florence will answer one question.
Senator Gill for question.
I will.
Senator Gill.
Other than tell you, I'm glad you have her age too. Because you know I like her. And I love your wife, and I think she's great. She's one of my favorite people. Do you believe, Senator, did you know, I need to know if you believe, and if we ban all abortions, do you believe that abortions, illegal abortions will resume? Do you think women are just going to not have abortions anymore in South Carolina?
If the question is, do I believe there will be no illegal abortion? I don't believe there will be no illegal abortion.
I mean, what do you, I'm trying to figure out how to make this a question. Did you know that I think that there will be more illegal abortions and that women's health care will suddenly go down the tube and people will be going back to the alleys with, coat hangers and all these things, and women's health care will really be bad if we don't give women a chance to decide on their own. And I know, did you know that you said 6 weeks is enough time for women to know that they're pregnant? Did you know, I don't think that that's enough time because, did you know, when I was pregnant, which 1,000 years ago, my daughter's 46, and I'm very proud of that. A lot of people think, why do you keep telling me your age, but I'm proud of it. But you couldn't tell I was pregnant until I was like 7 months pregnant. And, but I had tried to get pregnant for so long, I didn't know I was pregnant when I was 6 months pregnant, much less 6 weeks. So I don't know how you expect somebody, especially a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old that, had a bad relationship with a guy on one night stand. I don't think that they can know that they're pregnant at 6 weeks when the baby is just the size. And I'm calling it a baby. I'm not calling it a raspberry. I was just illustrating big a baby is. But someone who's not experienced in that, did you know, they're not gonna know. You know, they think they have an upset stomach. And did you know, I know that this is gonna sound like a crazy story, but I used to manage an office with I was the manager of 14 women. And this girl swears to me she didn't know she was pregnant. She went home from lunch one day and she said she drank too much tea at Lizard City. And she called me that afternoon and she said, Mrs. Trina, I'm not coming back. I said, why aren't you coming back? She said, well, I'm over at Lexington Medical Center. I just had a baby. Now, she'd been telling me she didn't have boyfriends, but I did ask her, did you know if that was an immaculate conception or something in the name of Jesus? You know, people just don't always know. So I think that 6 weeks is too short a time, and I just want to reiterate that again, that I think 12 weeks is a more reasonable time. I'm not saying 22 weeks is the right amount of time, and, you know, 0.0009% of abortions are performed after 22 weeks. It's some very, really small number of abortions performed.
Well, first of all, Senator, thank you for your comment, and I'm sorry.
Did you know, I think illegal abortion will resume after, if we change this law.
Well, I was going to say, first of all, thank you for that point. I'm going to note this illusion that making this law, or this bill become law, will stop abortion. In 1971, my biological mother had mechanisms to try to find a back alley abortion. Legislation doesn't change hearts. Bills don't change hearts. And they don't even necessarily change behaviors. War on drugs, prohibition, we go on and on. The behaviors aren't changed and mindsets, patterns aren't changed just by law. But there are also times when laws can be a mechanism that help direct someone's behaviors. At 14, and she was able to say at 14, had abortion been a legal, easy, endorsed option, it would have been probably a very different decision. But she was scared at 14 to go get a back alley abortion. She was already in trouble. Her boyfriend left, her parents essentially disowned her. She was alone. So the thought of then breaking the law and having a back alley abortion is the reason I'm here today.
But you know, Senator, I think her heart was in the right place, and that was a decision she made, just like my parents made the right decision. I think morality is what's going to make people make the right decisions. And did you know, I think that us putting a law out there that says you have to decide in 6 weeks, or you have to decide in, it's conception, or you have to decide, I think you put pressure on people, and then they might have an abortion in 6 weeks, where if you gave them extra time, they might think about it and decide, I really do want this thing. This is what, God intended for me. So that's my take on it.
And I really do appreciate what you do in terms of espousing support for the foster care system, for the adoption system. As we talk about this, I will stand with you, I'll continue to stand with you on initiatives to make the foster care system better, the adoption system better. I was in foster care, and I was adopted, we was adopted. I'm with you on that. And again, I am in no solutions. Back alley illegal abortion won't happen. But does that mean we stand back and do nothing and continue to see us become a destination location for over 1,000 abortions? Those are 1,000 Mike Ricken laws. Now, I'm not one of them, and I am infallible. You can ask my wife for 27 years. I'm no and I would agree with that. I'm here because the decision was made. And how many thousands Mike Ricken laws and others are we losing because someone like my 14-year-old mom said, you know what, if this was a legal option, it's a lot more convenient to carry this baby to term and drop it out of school. Doesn't just stop everything, but should that be an opportunity for me and those who are being snuffed out? I'll still be here. I appreciate it.
I think the 12 weeks will keep us from doing this to make a state and I'll sit down.
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. President.
Senator Collins, Trustee Brown.
Can I ask the senator a question?
Senator Gibbs for a question.
He would.
Senator
Senator, I knew about your story, and I the 6-week ban. At 6 weeks, I did not know. I still do not know. And you know why? Number one, I'm one of those females, and it's hereditary, and there are a lot of women like me who don't necessarily have a cycle every month. And they don't have the same indicators because of my metabolic rate. And so that's why do you understand that not every woman knows within 6 weeks? And do you understand that what this amendment does is it gives her 12 weeks, because there is a great majority of women who only have 6 menses a year. This 12-week amendment still would give the woman the chance to know. That's very important. I had 4 pregnancies, and each time PIVA penalized me because I didn't advise them within the 6 weeks time frame that they had. Back in the day, I was pregnant in 85, 93, 94, and 2001. None of them, did you know, was I ever diagnosed, had any inkling, any change to my body where I would have known. And the story I told to the Senate, I'm not sure if you know about it, was the same time I figured out with my first pregnancy was the same week I received my acceptance letter to law school. And I made a choice. And because I had a choice, it gave me responsibility and determination to be a single mother and a good single mother. So my point is, we have to, and I respect you, hear a lot about your pretty wife, but we have to find a way to protect women. We got 2 balancing issues. We've got to protect women and the children. I've been protecting women all my life, and I've been protecting children and fostering children. We've got to find a way to save children once they're born. We've got to find a way to give women options. I know you, Senator, from our interaction, I know you don't believe that there are women out there that are so callous that they would use abortion as a form of birth control. Do you?
What I can speak to, Senator, first of all, thank you. I did not know your total story, and I'm glad you went to law school, and I've been an honor to work with you, and I mean that, because you've been very, very kind to me as number 46.
Well,
What I have found is that I'll receive emails from constituents that have said 6 weeks isn't enough. Some will say 12 weeks isn't enough. Some will say 20 weeks is not enough. I'm no doctor, and I've learned to stay in my lane, so I don't debate the number of weeks. There's nothing special between 6 or 7 or 5 or 10 or 11 or 12 that I know of, because again, I'm no doctor. What I know is that when we talk about the competing needs and the competing concerns, balancing the life of the mother, the needs of the mother, the needs of the born, there is also that unborn that if not born, they have no opportunity. So I do hear you, and we'll disagree on this amendment, we'll disagree on this bill, and I would never profess to be a doctor and speak to, if the heartbeat is detectable around 6 weeks, why did you not know you were pregnant? I couldn't speak to that. That's why this is such an emotional and visceral issue, and I respect your position and every person's position in here. I simply wanted to put a face to the fact that that unborn egg, seed, berry, whatever you want to call it, does have potential as well. Could we consider that in the conversation? You're not going to change your vote, I presume. And I'm glad you made the decisions you did in law school and your children. But if we, in my opinion, don't consider that unborn child, we are going to lose a tremendous amount of opportunity that has been wasted because we snuffed them out beforehand.
But Senator, aren't we considering by the 12-week, you understand, it's a compromise of what the Senator was referring she is considered those unborn children.